Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel where we talk about neat design things. In this episode, we're going to be talking about secondary colors, so oranges, greens, and purples. And we'll be talking a little bit about color theory and, the attributes about each of those colors. And then later on, talking about color schemes, two different color schemes where we can use those colors inside our rooms to kind of bring an interesting and neat look to our spaces. So if you find that interesting, I'd love to have you stick around and hang out. So let's get started. So to get started to talk about secondary colors, we're going to refer back to a color wheel, which is this neat tool for artists and designers to see the relationships between colors and even, color combinations that go well together. On our color wheel here, we have 6 different colors. 3 of those colors are primary colors, and then the other 3 are the secondary colors. And to create the secondary colors, we need to start with the primary colors. And the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. And if you notice on the color wheel, those colors are in a certain sequence. So what that's telling us is that if we look in between red and yellow, there's the color orange. Well, that means that mixing red and yellow together will get orange. And then if we move along the color wheel and we notice there's a green in between the blue and the yellow, the same thing. If we mix yellow and blue together, we're going to get green. And then if we keep moving around to where we notice there's a purple in between the blue and red, well, then we know that blue and red create purple. And those colors, those oranges, the greens, and the purples, those colors that are in between the primary colors of red, yellow, and blue are what we call the secondary colors. So one of the cool things about secondary colors is that, they have 2 different colors in them, which is really kind of cool. And they're a little bit more complex in a way because they do have more than just one color inside them. And so that's what we'll be talking about today are, the neat attributes of oranges, greens, and purples, and then how to use those in interiors. So let's take a look at orange. And if you notice on the screen, there's 3 different variations of orange. We can start out on the left with a really nice basic orange. But if we add more yellow to the orange, we can come up with a more yellowy orange. Or if we add more red to it, then kind of a reddish orange. So, when you're out and about noticing oranges, notice the variations that you see and see if it's more yellowy orange or maybe even more reddy orange. And then orange is a warm color. So we talk about warm and cool colors. So in general, warm colors have yellow in them and they look and feel warm. Cool colors, on the other hand, have more blue in them and they look and feel cooler to us. And so orange is, just naturally a warm color. It has yellow in it. And warm colors are usually very bright and we notice them usually before we notice cooler colors. So think about that when you're using them in interiors that, warm colors like yellow and orange always kind of come forward. They grab our attention more. So, if you want that look and feel to your space, then that's a great color choice. But if you want something calmer, you may want to, tone down the orange or, use a different color that's a little bit softer. And right, in general, oranges are always very energetic and bright and happy. So those are wonderful, colors to use where you want that look and feel to your space. And then when we look at green, which is made up of yellow and blue, we can start out with this nice, beautiful, almost emerald green. But if we added a little bit more blue to it, it's going to be more of a bluish green. And then if we add more yellow to it, it'll create more of a yellowy green. So I always think of green kind of as, it could be both calming, but also sometimes also energetic. So it kind of depends on, the tone or the value and how soft or saturated that color is. And green, I think of can be either warm feeling if it has more yellow in it, but also lean towards a cooler color if it has more blue in it. So it can kind of, have both of those attributes, which makes it a really fun color to work with. So, looking at purple, which is made of red and blue, we can start out with a really nice basic purple, but if we added more blue to it, that'll become more of a bluish purple, and then more red, more of a reddish purple. And then, of course, all these different variations in between. And purple, I always think of it kind of as a cooler color because it has, blue in it, but it could kind of go to a little bit warmer. It would depend on, the color red. Maybe if you're using more of an orangey red to it, it would kind of warm up that purple a little bit. And purple, I think of can be very energetic, but it also can be kind of calming and serene. So if you use a tone that's a little bit deeper and not super saturated, it can be, very calming and, softer. So it kind of depends on what version of purple that you want to use and, what the look and feel that you want to have in your space. So now that we know about some attributes of each of those colors, we're going to talk about two different color schemes that you can think about using in your interiors to use secondary colors to kind of create some neat looks in your rooms. And we're going to be talking about analogous color schemes and then also complementary color schemes. So the first color scheme that we're going to take a look at is called an analogous color scheme. And when we look at the color wheel, all that is that any colors that are adjacent to each other or they're related in some way can make up an analogous color scheme. So for instance, we could use orange and yellow together because they're next to each other on the color wheel, but also that, orange has yellow in it, and so they're kind of related colors. The other color scheme we could use would be blue, purple, and red. They are next to each other on the color wheel. And then, of course, purple has both red and purple in that color. And then the third analogous color scheme that we can think about using is blue, green, and yellow. We could use even just two colors. We could use blue and green together, and that would create an analogous color scheme. But we could also use all three colors together. So blue, green, and yellow, as in this example, where the artwork actually brings in all three of those analogous colors and creates a really beautiful scheme. And then the other color scheme that's fun to use in interiors is what's called a complementary color scheme. So a complementary color scheme is very different from an analogous color scheme. An analogous color scheme, the colors are related some way and they're next to each other on the color wheel. Well, in the complementary color scheme, they're opposite each other on the color wheel and they're not related at all, but they add this kind of interesting, unexpected color scheme, combination of colors to interiors. So if we look at the color blue, well, orange is opposite the color blue, and that creates a complementary color scheme. And we can use that in very soft tones, but we can also use it in kind of unexpected ways. One thing to kind of always think about is that everything around us has color to it. So even wood and, different types of wood will have different color tones to them. So I think this bathroom is a really neat example of using the color orange in the wood and using that opposite its complementary color blue. So I think that's kind of a really neat, unexpected way to use a complementary color scheme. And then the other combination of colors is purple and yellow. They're opposite each other on the color wheel. And, kind of thinking outside of the box again, instead of just using purple and yellow together, how about using a more gold tone metal finish as the yellow? Because, gold has, yellow tones to it, and using that with some beautiful violets or kind of warmish sort of plum tones of purple. And then the third complementary color scheme that you can use is red and green, because they're right, they're opposite each other on the color wheel. And same thing, let's think outside the box and think about, toning down the red to maybe some soft roses or soft pinks, and then, pairing that with, a really deep green, or maybe just a very warm yellowy green. So those are examples of some complementary color schemes. So I hope you enjoyed this introduction to secondary colors. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or other ideas about using those three colors in interiors. And if you're interested, I have a cool little exercise you can do to become more acquainted and appreciate those secondary colors in your environment. So stay tuned. So for a fun exercise, just to kind of hone up on your color skills, is to choose something in your place or outside and of a certain color. Maybe it's an orange that you have sitting on your counter, and then pair that up with another color. In this example here, you could have that orange paired up with the blue, and that would create a complementary color scheme. But maybe you could find something where there's an orangey red or yellow, or even just red, and pairing that orange with those colors, and that would create an analogous color scheme. So just have some fun in your home, and look for items, anything that you can see, or even just outside, and notice, is there a beautiful sunset, and how that actually changes from, could be very complementary at first with this deep orange and, gray blue sky, but then it maybe it'll change to more of an analogous color scheme where there's this pinkish purple and blue combination going on. So just have some fun with that, and then share your color combinations in the comments, and we'd all love to hear what you found out and what was fun for you to see.